Whole bunch of news out of Volkswagen this week. Some of it good news, some of it great news, not really, some of it terrible news. Okay, it's mostly bad news, you guys. Volkswagen is cooked. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So I've got this gentleman here. I found him on the street. He was begging for cash. He said, homeless hungry will talk about EVs for money. And here we are. He's ready to do just that and nothing more.
Are you paying me now?
Yes, I'm paying you in exposure, which is the most valuable kind of pay. Although I will remind you, as many climbers can tell you, you can die of exposure. So we've got this fantastic bit of news here. The Volkswagen ID Buzz finally coming to America. Yeah. And so this is very exciting. Have you heard anything about this very, very exciting minivan?
I have heard as much as that picture that you just showed me. I have not. I was disinterested enough that I didn't even care about the interior. So
I was very excited when I saw it in render form, yes, and pretty darn excited when I saw it in concept form. And then when I was in, boy, I'm trying to remember where I saw it first. I feel like it was in Europe. Oh, no, it was probably at the LA Auto Show. I got to see one in person, but it was the Euro Spec one, which is a little bit shorter. The Euro Spec doesn't have a third row.
Oh, okay.
And it was... When I saw it, I couldn't believe how watered down it was from the concept. It is just a car. It is so basic on the inside, but it's pretty fun, pretty exciting. So why don't we look at the price? Base model, $61,000. Yee.
$61,000.
Yes, and that gets you 234 miles of range. That might be a tough sell.
Maybe for 61,000 they could have made it a little more cool looking. I mean, I know this is an attempt at retro, but oh goodness, it's ugly. Did I say ugly out loud?
Yes, you did. The rear wheel drive model, 69,000. Sorry, 65,000 for the plus, and rear wheel and 69 for the all-wheel drive. So $70,000 for the all-wheel drive version, and all-wheel drive gets you 231 miles.
Wow, holy man.
That's, and 282 to 335 horsepower. So it's not even all that zippy.
They have real, they haven't switched over to like some kind of AI to design this that was last year's AI. I mean, they're using humans with experience and knowledge to make these decisions.
They actually did something pretty clever. Instead of using artificial intelligence, they used no intelligence.
No intelligence. That's it.
So that's it's innovative. Yeah. But the price is never the actual price, because what about EV incentives? The electrified microbus units will be made in Germany. So they won't qualify for tax credits, but they could get the clean commercial vehicle credit of $7,500 if you lease it.
Oh, yes.
So that's a thing. Volkswagen's warning dealers against markups. Those are never enforced. If you really, yeah, that's the correct response. If you want one of these, you're going to, and you're early, you're going to pay whatever you're going to pay.
Yes.
And you're not going to have a choice in the matter. I think they're going to make them in sufficiently low numbers that you will have to pay a substantial markup if you want to be the first kid on the block with an ID Buzz.
So I'm not much of a retro guy. I did like the PT Cruiser when it came out. I really thought they were cute, but this retro, yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't mind it. I think it's kind of neat. Well, minivans are just not sexy to begin with, and this one is a little bit sexier, but 230 miles of range, my guys, what are you doing? That's just terrible. And by the way, the PT Cruiser I thought was okay. The Prowler I thought was real cool. That was taking it to the extremes. Too bad they just put a gutless V6 in it, but what are you going to do? But yeah, so the overriding thesis today, Volkswagen is cooked. Volkswagen's plant closure will not be Europe's last. Sluggish demand and competition from new entrants bodes ill for capacity utilization. So VW's move is somewhat of a rarity. It would mark the German carmaker's first ever plant closure in Europe.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's not great. And battery electric vehicles made in China are taking share. Now, this chart, I'm going to suspect, was made before the big tariffs were introduced.
Yeah.
But because I don't see Chinese brands maintaining this trajectory. And also BMW and Volkswagen and Mercedes are doing well in terms of gaining market share. So I'm less concerned about the China impact. But guys, plant closures, that is not a good sign. Volkswagen battery targets not set in stone. So that's exciting. Yeah, Volkswagen had said in 2021 that it wanted to build up to 240 gigawatt hours of battery capacity by 2030, which would allow a lot of time travel. I mean, like 200 trips, I think, of which 200 gigawatt hours would be built by its battery subsidiary PowerCo. But Schmal has reevaluated the goal multiple times since then. Say, maybe not that much power. So, yeah, where it's not set in stone. It's going to depend on how the market for electric cars develops. Well, you're the one developing the market, so
yeah. So
maybe you could use more batteries if you gave the ID Buzz more than 230 miles of range.
The thing that's hard to imagine, in the United States, we have had a stall in the EV revolution. For whatever reason, I can tell you what I think. I think it's because of the IRA. I think the IRA incentivized the hybrids too much. And as a result, Ford, Toyota, everybody that was doing hybrids said, hey, why are we going to make these full-on BEVs when we can get to save $7,500 on a hybrid? And they just quit. They just said, yeah, we're out. And then, Tesla's sitting there with all these hybrids they had to compete against now. For the dollar that maybe the average low information person out there was like, well, it's kind of green. So you got so I think that's what's killed the climb in the United States. That's just my opinion. But in Europe, the climb is going on. I mean, we've got several of the Scandinavian countries now with getting closer and closer to 100%. You've got Spain, very nice increases going on in Spain. I mean, why isn't Volkswagen? I mean, they're right in the middle of it. Why aren't they understanding the market better?
It's very weird to me to see some of these missteps. And I would think that maybe they know something I don't. But considering some of the mistakes they've made in the past, I don't think that's necessarily true. The whole Dieselgate scandal was ridiculous. The earliest signs that something was amiss was their competitors said, literally their competitors were saying, there is no mathematical way that they are getting these emissions with this horsepower. It's mathematically impossible. And that right there Volkswagen had to know that. They knew that the math was impossible. And what they should have done was gone back to regulators and say, look, what you've given us is an impossible mandate. It needs to be revised. Instead, they're like, what if we cheat? And what if when we get caught cheating, double cheat? Oh, it's a plan so good. I can't believe I just came up with it. Oh, you guys. And there are a lot of people who haven't forgiven them for that, but I would say most of the market has. Most of the market moved on like it never happened. So if there aren't consequences like those, I guess it's good that a few people went to jail, however briefly. But it's crazy. And if you look at countries like China's the biggest car market in the world, and it is absolutely not backing down from its EV mandate because they want energy independence.
Yes.
Once you're energy independent, boy, you got a lot more options. I don't know if you heard, Ethiopia recently banned the import of all non-electric cars. Banned all, even for diplomats. Diplomats said, well, I mean, I can still import my Mercedes, right? No, you can't. Well, I mean, unless it's electric. So diplomats, where are you going to get gas, my friend? Those stations are going to be closing every day. So Then we've got this bit of news. Volkswagen 82 chassis mule spied with ID3 bodywork. Production due in 2025. Is it? Is it? I hope so. The ID2 concept, it's their Golf. It's their e-Golf. I tried, it's fun. When I was looking for this story, the only one that had us a good, juicy headline was electric. And it wasn't Fred Lambert, whose works I will refuse to cite. But I recently said on X that I can no longer support electric because they're too sensational. And that means that they're and wrong. Well, a lot of times what Fred will do, because he's a very experienced publisher, is he knows the boundaries that are of what is technically acceptable.
Right.
And he will tiptoe right up to that line and skirt it. And as a result, you come away with the wrong impression, but he can blame it on the reader, saying they misunderstood.
Yeah.
And that's a bad philosophy. And it's so pervasive on electric that I just have declared that I will no longer use them as a source. I can't. So when I saw the headline on electric, I said, great, let me jump out and do a search and I'll find the story somewhere else. And guess what? The story that they were pushing on electric, they are the only ones pushing.
Oh.
So my hesitance, led to better information for you folks out there. So I would call for an organized boycott of electric, but I'm afraid he might pull a Twitter and sue me. So I'm not going to do that. And and the reason I said Twitter is because if I said call for an X, people would ask which one, because,
Oh, now, didn't we talk about that last week? See, you haven't learned anything about the law. You can organize a boycott all day long as you're not trying to put him out of business.
What is a boycott if not trying to put someone out of business? Randy, that doesn't make sense.
No, a boycott can be, I'm trying to send a message. It's a First Amendment right. I can boycott you. I can tell other people to boycott you because we want to send you a message so you change your ways.
Yep. So in the article, it does say pictured with comically short back doors. You know what? Yeah, those are comically short back doors. Is this what you're going to make? Interesting, if so. Interesting also that it cuts along here. That makes for a strange bit of compound bending that I think would be problematic in a production vehicle. You never see a fender flare go out onto a door like that. So yeah, they've got an issue or two to resolve. Volkswagen, I wish you well, but wishing is apparently your strategy, Volkswagen. So maybe wish harder. That worked for my good friend Pinocchio. So yeah, he turned into a real so-and-so.
Now we're trying to go the other way. Now we change our children into cyborgs, but that's okay. Yeah.
I am also a cyborg. I'm quite happy with the outcome. So you guys, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? How do you feel about Volkswagen's prospects moving into the future? They do have a long runway. They can afford to make a whole lot of mistakes. And the longer you wait to electrify, the cheaper the batteries and motors and all that gets while you're waiting. So I guess there is some merit to that idea. Everybody else, like, subscribe, let us know what we missed, and stay tuned and juicy, and head over to Randy's channel, see what he's up to there. And yeah, can't wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the flippity flop.